Intervene.
Intervene.
Yeah.
Intervene with an E at the end. Okay. Alteration. What's the noun? Alteration. What's the verb?
Alter.
Alter. Yeah, that's it. Okay. What about reoriented? That's an interesting. What's the noun? Reorientation. Yeah, reorientation. Yeah, okay. Ultimate. Is there anything we can do with ultimate?
Just the ultimate.
Ultimately.
You can't ultimately. Yeah, you can use an adverb. You can't. It's not a verb. You can't ultimate something.
Okay.
Now, there are some other words that come up with it. Penultimate. Does anyone know what that means?
Yes.
Penultimate, before the last one.
Yeah.
And what about this one? This is a great word.
Ultimatum.
It's deadline, like a deadline.
Yeah, an ultimatum. It's not always a deadline. Okay. An ultimatum is if you don't do this, this will happen. So, for instance, you need to start listening to me or we'll have to separate. Yeah, that's an ultimatum. Or marry me or we're finished.
I give you 3 hours to clean your room.
So an ultimatum is when you give someone a choice and if they don't give you the answer that you want, it's over or you've finished or you change something. So, okay, so we've got an ultimatum. And then numerous. Can anyone think of a verb?
Adjective. Numerous.
Well, this is an adjective. Okay. Now, that is also an adjective. So to be numerate and to be literate.
Numeral.
This means you can read and write. And this one means you can count. Okay, if you're a numerate person. Okay, if you're a literate person, it means you can read and write. If you're numerate, it means you can count. Okay, now the verb is this. Enumerate. To enumerate. Okay, so to enumerate is to go through a number of different things. So let's say I wanted to talk about the benefits of studying at SET English. Great teachers, friendly atmosphere, good materials, flexible, blah, blah. I am enumerating, I'm going through the list and I'm sort of numbering them all separately. That's what that's what it is if you want to find a verb. Now, you might think that I'm boring, okay? But I think that it's interesting to know that all of these words, sometimes they're really obvious, intervene and intervention. It's just the verb of the noun. But in this case, with this adjective, that the verb means something completely different to what the adjective means. I think that's interesting. And you can only know that if you explore the vocabulary and if you set yourself little tasks. When you record new vocabulary, have a look in the thesaurus where you can find synonyms. Have a look in dictionaries where you can find usage and pronunciation. So an intervention. Intervention is getting involved in a situation to perform an action. Intervening. Now, we know all of that, but we know medical interventions. Give me a medical intervention.
Oh, an accident.
No, that's not a medical intervention.
Angioplasty is a medical intervention.
Angioplasty. Any procedure is a medical intervention.
Resuscitation.
Resuscitation is a medical intervention. Any form of treatment is a medical intervention. Any form of care is an intervention. Okay. Now, it doesn't only have to be medical. If I see two people fighting in the street, I would intervene and I would say, look, guys, stop doing that. Okay, stop fighting. I'm getting involved. I'm intervening. Well, maybe I might not with some people, to be honest. Some people I might just walk away.
If you want to have a black eye, maybe.
Possibly. Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Everyone on mute for now. Okay. Alteration. To alter is to change slightly. Okay. To change something slightly. You're not completely changing it. You're just altering it. Now, this often gets used with clothes. You know, if your trousers are slightly too long, you get them altered. That means you get them turned up a little bit and sewn around the inside. You don't change everything. You don't rip them to pieces. You just alter them. It's changing something slightly. Okay, so an alteration is a slight change.
Oh, can we say modify?
Yeah, modify is similar to as well, but there are some things that you modify and there are some things you alter. You would never modify
Like
clothes, but you could modify a machine. So it's strange. You're really into the area of collocations there. You can modify your approach, but you can also alter your approach. There are some things you do, some things you don't. It's a hard one to talk about.
Change
And
can be
alteration.
change
Let's
can
wait.
be positive or negative.
Hands up if you want to ask a question. Go on. Is that Farid? Go on, Farid.
Yeah, I was asking the change can be positive or negative.
Yeah, I mean, there's a phrase in English which is that there's loads of phrases to do with change. There's a theory that in the UK people don't like change, and that's just change as an uncountable noun. But change is neutral, isn't it? Some changes are good, some changes are bad. So if the weather changes today, I probably won't be very happy because I like this weather. It's dry, it's warm, it's bright. If it changes, what's it going to change to? Dark, cold, wet. I don't want it to change. So a change for me would be negative, but sometimes changes are good. Generally, people's salaries change for the better, don't they? Generally, but not always.
Thank
And if someone's reoriented, what it literally means is changing someone's direction. That's what it means, literally. But that's not really how it gets used. So you could reorient a GPS, a GPS that you have in your car.
Yes.
But if you're reorienting somebody, you're not really changing someone's direction. You are changing how somebody sees their situation, generally. So let's say, for instance, let's say that somebody's job changes. And, before you were a surgical nurse, and then they said, look, we've got too many surgical nurses, so we need someone to come and help in pediatrics. Okay, you can't just say, okay, finish at 12 and then go and start in the pediatrics ward. You can't do that. You've got to go through a reorientation process. And you've got to try and change the way that person sees themselves and the kind of skills that they need and how they see the patients and things like that. So to reorientate or to reorient is that idea. Ultimate. The idea of ultimate is final. And think about what final can mean. Sometimes final can mean most. Okay, so let's think about this. I'm gonna ask this question. What is the ultimate reward for being what is the ultimate reward of being a healthcare professional? Okay, put your hand up if you got an answer for that. What's the ultimate reward of being a healthcare professional? Let's see some hands up. I know Carmen's got a hand up, but we'll wait. Anybody else got an answer for me?
Depression.
Hand up. Go on, Hussein. What do you think? What's the ultimate reward of being a healthcare professional?
After we get a healthcare profession, then we are going to go for specialized. Then we are going to be, professor.
But a reward, okay. What you're talking about is achievement.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing, sir.
or level. You're talking about the level that you can reach. What's the top level that you can get to? I'm not talking about that. I'm saying a reward is something that you get given when you've done something well. So let's go for Prabhu. What do you think? What's the ultimate reward of being a healthcare professional?
satisfaction and making positive effect on people.
Okay, the satisfaction of having a positive effect on people. Yes.
Wow.
Okay, now some people might say a good salary. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's status. Maybe being respected in society. Maybe that's the ultimate reward of being a healthcare professional. It's up to you. You can decide. But I like this. I think most healthcare professionals think this. You know, when you go to bed at night, you know that you're doing something good in society. You know that you're helping people. You know that today, 4, 5, 6, how many people, I don't know. Even if it was just one person today that you helped, that's a great feeling. And lots of people don't get that. So when we say the ultimate reward, we're saying the most. And if you think of the most, what that means is you can't go past it. So it gives you the idea of final, doesn't it? It gives you the idea of final. So ultimate is an interesting word in that case. Yeah, it can be the final one, or it can be the most of something. And they sort of cross over a little bit. Ismail says the Nobel Prize. What would a healthcare professional get the Nobel Prize for?
Maybe
For doing an
extraordinary research.
Yeah, like
maybe
Sigmund
your
Freud.
operation, like head transplant, which hasn't happened yet.
Oh, right. Okay. So a new kind of revolutionary operative
maybe.
surgical procedure.
But
Okay.
it hasn't happened yet. I don't know.
You know what, I was listening to a podcast yesterday, and do you know this word? I think some people will know this word, guru.
Yeah.
Now
Mentor.
I know this is a big word in terms of, is it Sikhism, Hinduism, maybe Buddhism, guru. It's somebody that you look up to who's got lots of answers
Mentor.
and wisdom.
Mentor.
Yeah. But there's a problem. Okay, there's a problem in that there are many gurus who are not really gurus. Yeah.
Yes.
Fake.
And if you look at the internet, it's full of them, isn't it? So this podcast I was listening to was taking these gurus and talking about them. And one of them, or two of them, brothers, they're called Weinstein, the brothers, Eric and Brett Weinstein. And they both believe that they should have got the Nobel Prize for science, but they didn't. And their explanation is that the reason they didn't get the Nobel Prize was because there's a conspiracy against them. And it's a really interesting podcast. Their name, Brett Weinstein, he's an evolutionary biologist. And Eric Weinstein is a theoretical physicist. A lot of it goes over my head, but it's an interesting podcast and good English. Okay, so the ultimate reward for science is the Nobel Peace Prize. Yeah, I like it. Numerous. This is an interesting word. This is a really interesting word because you've got a few words in English that mean that refer to numbers without saying numbers. So you've got a pair, you've got a couple, you've got a few, you've got several. You've got multiple.
Both.
Both is a weird word. Yeah. Okay. Both. Yeah. Both. We've got and we've got numerous. Now, if we look at these words, all of these words tell us something, but some of them tell us a little bit more than others. So a couple, that means two.
Yeah.
Doesn't it? Now, sometimes it's a couple that go together, like me and my wife, we're a couple. All right. But me and my friend, we're not a couple, but we are a couple of people.
A pair.
But a pair.
Yeah, you are with a friend.
Well, they are matching items, like a left glove and a right glove. They're a pair, aren't they? Two right gloves, they are not a pair because they don't match. They don't go together. They're not supposed to come as a two. Okay. And there, what I've got is I've got a couple of gloves if I've got two that are both the same. So a pair are ones that match. A pair of shoes. Can you think of anything else? Pair of gloves, pair of glasses. Yeah. Pair of gloves,
socks.
pair of socks. Yeah. Okay, but then you've got a few. A few
Several.
is interesting because a few means more than one, but not many really.
Negative.
But it depends on the situation. Just imagine someone said to me, I've taken my television back to the shop. My television doesn't work. Oh, there's only one problem. No, there were a few. I'm trying to say there's more than one. Okay. And it's the same with several. Several, what is that? Several, no one knows what the number is. If you say several instead of a few, then what you're trying to do is you're trying to emphasize
Quite a
that,
few.
that it's more than a few.
Yeah, quite a few, yeah.
Counted.
Well, you're using language to say that, but it's what we're emphasizing. If you choose to say several instead of a few, then you're trying to put a negative spin on it, or you're trying to put a positive spin on it. So I've got several properties. Maybe you've only got 4. Maybe you've got 4 properties, and you say the word several. Well, a few would work there as well. But it's the emphasis that you're trying to do. If you say several, you've chosen that word deliberately instead of a few, because you're trying to emphasize that it's more than that. Multiple just means more than one. Both means 2. And there were only 2 mentioned. So if I've got 3 cats and I say pick both of them up, you'd say, what do you mean there's 3 there? What do you mean by both? Or both of my children are at school, and you say, Paul, you've got 3 children. Yeah, then it would be a bit strange. And numerous is like a sister to several. The reason you're saying numerous is because you're trying to emphasize how many. Okay, you're trying to emphasize that there's a lot. Okay, now it depends on the context, but numerous never means 100. Never means 100, but it never means 2. It never means 3. It could mean 4, but it's what you're emphasizing. You're basically doing the same thing with several as you are with numerous. Okay, you're emphasizing that it's more than a few. It's not a real number. And then you've got lots and loads of and many and a lot. They all mean many. But these are interesting words. So numerous, we're emphasizing that it's more than a few. That's the idea. Okay, we could have said a few, but that was not the feeling we wanted to give you. Does anyone know a word that begins with C, which means giving a feeling by using this word and not that word?
Countless.
No.
Concern.
Concern.
On.
Consent.
Connection.
Connotation.
Connotation. Okay. Nobody knows how many numerous is. Nobody knows how much a few is. But when you say numerous, you've given the connotation. You've emphasized that it's more than a few, even though you haven't. Now, Mary's asked me one of my favorite questions, but I'm not going to do it today. We have done some other classes, but I'll write an example in the Skype group, okay, Mary, because we need to move on. But I like to talk about a few and few. They are different. All right, so we've got this vocabulary along with the words that you've been looking at earlier in the week. We've got 2 days. Let's see how many Part C questions we can do in that time. Okay, Part C technique and format. Am I right in thinking that there are 12 questions in Part C?
Yes, you.
No, 16 questions.
Thank you very much. Don't let me use a leading question like that, guys. Yeah, 16 questions. Okay, there are 16 questions, and we've got 2 long texts.
Yeah.
And one of the texts has got 10 questions, and the other one's got 6. Is that right?
No,
No.
each one 8.
8 questions.
8 each. Okay, I'm just keeping you on your toes, just checking. I don't want you to be asleep. Okay, 2 long texts, 8 questions, and 8 questions for both. Okay, they're multiple choice 4.
Yes, 4 options.
Yeah, we've got A, B,
C, and D.
C, and D. Yeah. and we've got a question stem at the beginning. Now, let's put it all into context. You've got part A, which is 20 questions. You've got part B, which is 6 questions, and you've got part C, which is 16 questions. So all of the reading is how many questions?
42.
42. Yeah, so there are 42 points available. All right, so this is important. You've got to be practical. All right, I want you to be practical. There are 42 points available, and you really want to be scoring 30. Okay, 30 plus. If you're scoring 30 regularly in your practices, then you're probably going to pass OET reading. Okay, so how do we get to that magic number? Well, let's say that part A, we get 17 points. Okay. And then part B, people generally tend to do okay. Let's say we get 4 points. What does that add up to? 21. Okay. Then that leaves us here needing
9 points.
9 points. Now I'm just sort of drawing a line in the sand here. I'm not being accurate. I'm just sort of being a bit approximate. As this goes up and down, okay, so does this. Let's say 17 is too difficult. Okay, let's take that down and we say you need 10 points here. Even if you need 10 points in part C, that means you can get 6 questions wrong. You don't have to be perfect. Nobody's perfect. Okay. I think that with the great technique that we've got for part A, I think that you can get more than 16 points. I think you should be aiming for 18 points, guys. I really do. I think that, I know it's easy to say it, but this is what you should be doing. 18 points in part A. 18 points in part A, that takes us to
8.
50%. 50%. Now, if you don't think that you can get 50% in part C, you shouldn't be taking the test. All right? 50%, that's all you need to get. 50%. Okay, with our elimination technique, you should be able to get down to a 50-50. And some of those questions, you don't even need to do it. Some of them, you can just get the right answer. So I think that you've got better than a 50-50 chance to get 50%. I really do. So I think that everyone here should be able to get 8 to 10 points in this section. But it requires a bit of prep. It requires, you know, skills, as we said earlier on. You need to have a good
usual formal structure for these types of classes.
Okay, so here I am with Edwin. Hi, Edwin.
Hey, Paul.
Hi, nice to see you. Okay, so Edwin, you are an OET hero, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, super. So where do you live?